5. How many panelists are there?
4.
We start that practice but if you we don't experience we enjoy being the same and especially having that walk out of the hotel restaurants generally where to see the value of the offer. Being able to step out of the hotel and having 45 restaurants as your footstep was massive value. And the second one is being more being built inside of the shop. So it almost has a coffee style or a coffee shop style. Most people more of a deconstructed design, so the conference restaurants are all separate within one general space. It's worked very well. It feels like the sense of safety and also options. And that's it's also allowed to appeal to the retail side, where physical restaurants work in a management offer great value and great food. We try to bring up in partners with restaurants to trade. It feels like a standard restaurant before. And so that allowed to get a good amount of interest from just the general local market and ranked it one of the 2 advisory best restaurants in the country. Normally would have so much. If we would like to get within the state and the other attached to the area for
Hi, Robert. Hello. How are you?
Good. Got 2 questions here from Arthur.
So you just need to open a new tab and then just put that link that I sent. You should be able to go directly to the session. Like I'm just waiting in the back end to allow you on.
From hotel valuations.
No, I'm saying open a new tab and then just paste the link in there and then go into that link. I'm not sure if you're still watching it on the other side, but because it should give you direct access to the panel discussion backend. So you shouldn't be where you are, yeah. And then have you requested to share your audio and video, the blue button at the top right hand corner? No, you can do it now. Then I should be able to reach you. There you are. Okay. Not yet, so I'm just waiting for them. Sure. Okay. No problem.
We haven't really seen much transactional evidence, not just on hospitality, but
I am so tired. They can close those ones, eh? I'm tired now.
Substantial value for quality assets. I think kind of where the fundamentals haven't changed. The second one maybe something that
where is she though?
too many is currently in East Africa to get analysts. Certainly, from my perspective, that specialist in South Africa, I certainly see a such East Africa
Hello?
region offering
Yes.
potential markets to launch a focus on hospitality loan.
And video, yes. Yes, I'm listening.
Anyone else with any views on that?
Because you were just in and then you left.
Good. Coming to you, I think just
Is it for your audio and your video? You should just accept, yeah.
products with six people,
Yeah.
interesting brands coming through. I mean, what are the sort of key things that you're looking to
Okay.
that's with sort of focus from you from a product point of view and what's kind of getting you excited?
Well, it depends on the market.
No, there's no one else here. Okay. Yes, yes.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, give him a- Kawira just joined.
Who did?
Hello?
Oh, great. Hi, Kawita.
Hi.
Can you hear me, Kawira?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. It's Priscilla here.
Hi, Priscilla. Hi, Robin.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Christine coming in now.
Okay.
Wonderful. Oh, man. Okay. Let's see here.
I don't know where Christine went. She literally was just here. I just accepted her to come in. Just waiting for Emma as well.
Let's see. Priscilla, is there a way for me to hide your video or your screen?
No, I'm gonna come off, don't worry.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
I mean,
I just needed to let you guys in.
yeah. And Priscilla, do you give any time warnings on time?
I'm going to have to send that to you via WhatsApp
Okay.
and any other audience questions that come in as well.
Alrighty. Checking my lighting here. Is it okay? Kawira,
Yes, you're fine.
we haven't met. Have we? Kawira, have we met?
We did. We did at the
Oh.
Legends and Leaders
Oh,
event. Yes.
excellent. You have to charge it to my mind and not to my heart.
Do you recall? In case you
Yes.
don't, at least then you can put a face to the name today. But we met. We actually met. Yeah,
Oh, help me out. You know, we've been in a pandemic since then.
that's true. That's true. That's
Okay, we're
true.
gonna go live in about a minute or so.
Okay.
Is there any way I can, by any chance, Robin, can you send me the remaining panelists' number by any chance? So I can just assist them just to get on if they're having trouble.
Okay, dokie. I don't, but Annabelle does. Can I text you Annabelle's number?
Sure.
Okay, just sent to you. So let me see here. Priscilla, do we just start with who's here, or what do we?
Yeah, you can start, and then I'll just try to get the other ones on.
Okay. This is going to
So
be
you
the
can start.
show.
You can start.
Okay. Okay. So good afternoon, and welcome to the East Africa Property Summit's panel on women in East Africa real estate panel. And so my name is Robin Emerson, and I am the president of Women in Real Estate in Kenya. And we have the distinct privilege to have worked with EAPI to put together this panel. It's been something we've been thinking about in the works for quite some time, and we're very thankful for EAPI to give us this platform to share with all of the attendees that come for this summit, and for us to put this on the forefront as a formal engagement in regards to gender equity, gender parity, and representation in the built environment that all of us so passionately participate in. Let's see here. I'm an urban planner, so I guess let me quantify myself for being qualified to be here. So a little bit, so that's my participation on a direct way inside this, inside of the built environment. We also are unfortunate that the summit didn't happen in person in April, but we're so happy that the summit has come around and has brought us together in this virtual manner. So I'm going to take a moment and just ask my panelists that are here to introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the discussion of the topic. So let's see here. Kawira, would you please introduce yourself and welcome?
Thank you. Thank you, Robin, and thank you to the WIRE team as well as API for organizing this event, and thank you to the audience, because without the audience here, we wouldn't have this. My name is Kawira Njogu, and I am the head of placement at Build Her, an organization that builds the capacity of women from disadvantaged backgrounds by training them in construction skills and imparting life skills to enable them to succeed. And then we provide the construction industry with these ladies as semi-skilled artisans who then grow in their careers into skilled artisans and eventually seek to build careers in construction. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. If I can do a shameless plug here, I've just joined on the board of Build Her. And so I'm just a shameless plug. And so I'm just honored to have the panel here are people that I hold in high esteem. So let's see here. Emma, would you please take a moment and introduce yourself as well? Now, this is a woman of a lot of energy, so that being still is not characteristic, everyone. Let's see here. Emma, are you? Okay. So I presume when her signal gets stronger, Emma Emma will come back in and say a little bit about herself and greet everyone. But I can just do a brief. So Emma is an architect. She's the former president of the Architecture Association of Kenya. She's a partner with Design Source, an architect and interior design firm here in Nairobi, and they do work across East Africa. She's also the co-author of Building in Kenya, the first book in Kenya on a step-by-step guide for developers on how to develop. And so Emma will be back with us, I'm sure, as she works out her technical glitch. And then we have another panelist that'll be joining us, Christine. Christine right there. Wonderful. Perfect timing, Christine. Perfect timing. Hi. Do you mind introducing yourself, Christine?
Hi, can you hear me? I'm so sorry. I've been trying to log in and I don't know what is wrong.
No problem. There's feedback though, Christine, where that when you join there you go. That's much better. So Christine,
Hello?
Can you introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself? Christine? Okay. We can't hear you, Christine. There
Hello?
you go. Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately my volume is really low because I had set up my laptop also beautifully and now I have to use my phone because the browser won't start, but that's okay. I'll do my best. It's really, really low. I don't know what to do to increase the volume, but I'll try my best.
Yeah. Okay, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, Christine Namagulu is my name, and I'm the CEO of New Plan Kenya, which is part of New Plan Group, consulting engineers, planners, and we're in the fields of almost all the fields of engineering and also architecture and planning and environment. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful, great. It's so glad to have you on here, Christine, and I'm so happy that you're a member of WIRE also. Okay,
sorry, so kindly say that again. The volume is really low.
Okay, I was just saying I'm happy to have you here on this panel and great to see you.
Yes, I am really happy to be on the panel as well. Thank you, Robin.
Here. So let's dive right in. Let's just jump straight in on this conversation. You know, ladies, Women in Real Estate recently did two kind of seminal surveys in regards to women in the built environment, in two aspects of it. So one, just strictly representation. What's our representation like in the built environment? What are our numbers? What are the different maybe areas in the built environment where we are finding higher numbers, or some places where we are finding even less numbers than the desired parity? And then we recently did another survey here just over the last month, one looking at sexual harassment in the built environment. Sexual harassment in the built environment. And some of the responses and the feedback that's coming from that have been quite eye-opening, if you will. Eye-opening, jaw-dropping, any of those, unacceptables, if you will. Any of those unacceptables. And so we wanted to have an opportunity, and I don't know if you mentioned, in terms of, this East Africa range, I think you do work in Uganda, or your company stretches beyond, and we know Emma does work, not just in Kenya as well. So we really want to try to see, is this only a Kenyan phenomenon? Is this something that is across the region, even across the continent, and goodness gracious, across the world, if you will? And one of the things we're trying to look at is what are the knobs and the levers and the initiatives and the work that needs to be done by the sector overall, the whole sector. Not just the 3 or 4 of us that are here on this panel that are interested in this subject. It is going to take the whole sector to get in and see this as a priority, see this as a strategic leveraging point, see this as part of a sustainable development component in the spaces in which we are plopping buildings as developers, in the spaces that we are constructing societies. We too have a responsibility that the people that are seeing these projects, the people who are developing these projects, has the view of the other 50% or plus of society in Kenya. Okay, so we see this from we see this importance. It has many levels and many facets to its importance. Okay, ladies.
Yes.
So let me just share with you just some let me just share with our guests here at our panel that have come in some of the results from some of those surveys that I just mentioned a moment ago. So so let's see here. So only 7.3%. So we did this survey, we sent it out to our National Construction Authority, we worked with the architectural, all the places where people have to register to do work. We figured that that's a place that we could, an entry point that we would find everybody, if you will. And 7.3%, so 142 women out of 1,936 women are registered engineers in Kenya. So that's 7.3%. And then only 11.8% of the total of registered architects are women. Only 11.8%. And then if we look at contractors, those women that are registered with the Construction Authority, only 15.45% are women. Now just let that soak in for a minute. Let it soak in. Okay? 7.3% of the women in this country are engineers. Yeah. And so, we are looking at, again, as I said, what are the knobs and levers? Okay? What are the knobs and levers? Have we, in our educational system, have we not shown our girls a whole career opportunity for them? Are we not even showing our girls and women a career opportunity for them? The myth about women in STEM education, how deep does that run, and is this an impact? So let me just get into this. So that is the framing of our discussion. Okay, that is the framing of our discussion. First, maybe let me just get your initial reactions to those indicators that I've just pointed out. So Emma, we'd love to hear your voice. We missed you earlier. Maybe you could just say hello again and tell us your initial reaction to these figures.
Great. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Am I frozen?
No.
I'm frozen. Okay. In my other life with homeschooling, the kids always sing when you get frozen, because now they're on online learning. They sing, "Let it go, let it go." Anytime someone gets frozen, so you can do that.
Oh, I got it.
Yes, now you get it. Okay, so yeah, Robin, I heard you very loud and clear. You did a phenomenal job of introducing me. There's nothing I would add there. But maybe in this forum, I'd also add that my wife currently acquired a new skill of homeschooling, and of a 3-year-old up to a 10-year-old. I'm rediscovering mixed fractions and LCM and GDC and things like that. So interesting life we're in. Just based, those statistics you're talking about, Robin, were very, very shocking. And really, we sort of get the feeling sometimes that we have arrived, that we are doing, just from the little we see, that compared to our parents' generation, we are more at the fore, and we think, oh, we're doing very well, until the data comes out and you're at 7%. You've just moved from 1% to 7%, and you're feeling good about it. So that was a very shocking, statistic, and I can see there's women, African Women Association in Europe and all that, and it would be a wonderful challenge just to on the call. I've seen them chatting. It would be wonderful to see, is it a unique scenario? What's the actual regional perspective, and how are the different regions comparing? Because that was very, very shocking in our context, because we were hoping for a 30%, not the best, but we were hoping for a 30%, and we landed at 7%. So pretty shocking. Still a long way to go. The 200 years, I say, to bridge the gender gap is a reality when you look at those figures. So there's work cut out for us who are already in the sector, to change the mind shift to role model for other women as well. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's see, Kawita, I'd love to get your initial reaction to those numbers that I shared.
Thanks, Robin. Equally, or likewise, as Emma has said, those figures are actually shocking, and it just speaks to the fact that despite the strides we've made, there's still a lot more that we need to do. We realize that the construction sector is still growing. It's still very dynamic. Albeit COVID has slowed things down, but we are no exception in terms of the industries globally that have been affected. But that said, the construction industry is still one of those industries that's growing rapidly. And so there's still room, there's still a space to create those opportunities so that there's more gender equity, and so that women can contribute more in terms of perspectives, and so that there's also room for mentorship to also guide others to come into this space and to flourish in this space. So it just speaks to the opportunity, the grand opportunity that still exists, but still also to the work that we have to collaborate and achieve towards getting more into this space. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And Christina, initial reactions?
Yeah, I think I must say that I was also quite shocked that the percentage was really, really small. And I was shocked because I think I've been in sort of the more sheltered space of this industry. I mean, when you go to university and you see, the numbers sort of look like they're adding up. Like in my class, my architecture class, were actually 7 girls and 7 boys. And so, when you're coming out, you feel like, the playing field is kind of even. And then you get into office, and interestingly, at my office, for quite a large, long period, the ladies were more than the men. At one point, we were about 80-something in the office, and more than 50% were women. And even, when we came about 800, so the whole group now is about 200, still the women were 48%, men 50%. So you feel like, we're getting somewhere in the big picture. But once you look at it, on a larger scale, and you look at it even in the areas where maybe young women do not have, the same kind of opportunities that we may have in the cities or in certain areas, you just, it's just really glaring. It just shows that we have so much work to do, especially if you've been privileged enough to get into this space. Then you just feel like you have the load is upon you, it's on you to actually do something about it. So we can't slacken, we can't feel like we've arrived. We have we have a lot of work to do besides our regular business. We have a lot of work to do to push people forward. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Christine. So, all of you are, as Christine just mentioned, as we've gotten our seat here, we made it, ladies. We're at the EAPI conference. We've made it, right? And so that means you are, you're accomplishing you are someone that has, is succeeding in this work and making a name for yourself. What can you say, or maybe that you have had some experience, or that you've seen in terms of, is there a real barrier for women in the sector? Is there a real barrier? I just want to hear from you. Is there a real barrier? Are there some real biases that exist? What would you say is, do they exist? Have you encountered any that you can personally share about, or you've seen in your workspaces, professional associations? Who would like to say something?
So Robin, maybe I can just chip in.
Yeah.
Because you bring a very important perspective in terms of what are those barriers, because they're actually not physical. We can't see them. It's not in your face. It's very subtle, and that's where it starts from when you're a little girl. That and I think Christine spoke to something there that was very interesting, that at the university, and that's something we were also checking at the women in real estate in Kenya. What does it look like in school, and what does it look like in absorption into professional practice? And that's where now we're getting them into school. Now we're getting them to do STEM. We're getting girls to do STEM. But somewhere, when life happens, something is happening that is it's an undercurrent that's making women not take up these professionals and professional roles in terms of registration and practice. So it's a very interesting question, and I don't know whether I have the answer. What I'm saying is, it may not be physical. I haven't maybe once or twice, I can count on one hand the times that in my face I have faced discrimination, but it's probably in subtle ways, in where conversations are being had about who's going to take over what job, who's going to, the client relationships and the like. Maybe it's those subtle things that we must then ask ourselves, what is that, and how do we overcome that as women in real estate? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's see if we can build on that. Kawira or Christine?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay. So I just wanted to say that based on experiences, even current experiences, what you're finding is, again, echoing Emma, those conscious or unconscious biases. And of course, when you think about it, the unconscious ones are even harder, to change. You have stereotypes, the attitudes, the male attitudes that are there towards women, and their ability to execute, the ability to contribute, the ability to make decisions, and all that gets lost when the women are left out just because of the biases that have been created, the stereotypes that exist. And that's something that's rife, it's very real right now. And in regard to actually what Christine was saying about the universities, it's actually interesting, because you think about the different institutions. You have universities on one hand where you're seeing more participation, more inclusion, but then you also look at the other institutions, for example, the TVET space, where we practice as BuildHer, and you find that majority, for example, in Kenya, majority of the TVET spaces have a very large male attendance, male audience. But when it comes to a female-focused TVET institution, in fact, I dare say BuildHer, so far as I know, is the only female-focused TVET institutions. So you have scenarios like that also that play into it. Yes.
Okay. That's great.
I also
thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that when we are starting out, I think you could see a number of women, but as you go along, I think more women fall off than men, and go into other things, because I've seen many women end up, she studied, one of the things in technology, and she just goes off maybe into business or into something because it's maybe difficult, or it has not been, she has not been able to integrate easily, or it has been more difficult for her, and she has not been supported at that level. So I find it easier women, either they stay down, they don't climb, the ladder faster, or they don't get opportunities to get up there. So some of them fall away, some of them, don't pursue their careers to the end as to where they should be. But again, the things that you mentioned are really subtle. Emma has mentioned you don't get hit in the chest so that you can scream out and say, there's a discrimination against, me in this way, and so it's hindering me from going up. It's just being in forums where, say, for example, it's a woman against a man, and then the man gets voted. Why? Because there are more men in that space. And so the woman will not get into that position, because the men will not vote her in to lead them. Things like that. And it's not very obvious, but it's there, it's looking at us. And then, other things like maybe she needs finances to move to the next level in her business, and she's not getting it. And so I think we actually after this summit we'll probably have to sit down and really even dig deeper into these issues and see where the real problems are, and then we can be able to have real solutions for them, because they are there. We cannot deny that they're there, but because we've been given something, and we feel like we received something, it is we're getting a little. I don't say we're blinded, but the little that we get, hinders us from seeing the real, issues that are there that are still glaring. Because we're also struggling to make it. So while we're struggling to make it, you sort of forget the other issues that others may be facing, or that are real. Yeah, because we've succeeded in one or two places. So yeah, that's probably what I can say at this point.
Okay.
Robin, permit me to add one thing, please. Sorry.
Okay.
I cannot underscore enough the importance of mentorship that comes into this equation. To be able to walk the hand, take someone in their hand and really take them through this process. Because remember, there's also the whole cultural influences. So there are also the cultural influences that come into play that make women already feel that they shouldn't do X, Y, Z, or they shouldn't pursue certain opportunities. And also just to be able to give them those resources, as Christine is saying, the finances, just even the guidance to be able to know how to plan and to focus ahead deliberately. So mentorship is critical in this whole process. Thank you.
Thank you. And Emma?
And Robin, I just wanted to mention, it's interesting that Kawira has mentioned culture, and I see Lindiwe on the chat is also saying that in Botswana, it's almost cultural. The women should, especially married, have interest in real estate. And funny enough, when we're talking about culture, traditionally women are the ones who build. So it's quite a interesting paradox in that sense, that in actual true African culture, women are the ones who build. And then somewhere along there in the 30s and between the 30s and the 60s and the 70s, it became male dominated, or a man's job. And really the women were the ones who built the home with their hands. So maybe that's something we need to reclaim culturally as well.
True.
And Robin, you and I know in the background of even developers that we've talked to in this sector, there are many women, but sort of at the back. They're not at the foreground. They're not, on a mountaintop screaming that they're developers. So in our sector, they're there, but they're also very quiet about it. Yeah, working in the background and making things happen, but they're not coming out to the fore to be the role models we want them to be.
Yeah, so that's a really you all of you have brought some really great points, and as Emma talked about, how do we flip the script, if you will? How do we flip the script and go back to maybe some sustainable ways in which we engage and we see roles, if you will? Because as you talked about culture, what comes right there with culture are stereotypes, right? It comes right there when you talk about culture is stereotypes. And as Emma mentioned, at one point, it was expected or culturally acceptable for women to be doing it. And how culture gets changed is that somebody does something different, and then that becomes the new norm. Then that becomes the new acceptable. So it sounds like we need to be diverting the river back, if you will. How do we divert this river back, if you will? Somebody changed it that way. Let's divert the river back and take back the context in an empowering way, if you will. That we take our power back inside of this sector. And I spoke about this at the beginning, but I just want to say it again. Why does this matter? Okay, why the heck does this matter? Why do women want to be in this sector? Why do women want to be equal? Why do women want to be somewhere? Look, because we are 50% of the society. We have a voice. We have a perspective that is unique to women. We have a perspective about how buildings, spaces, and so forth should be designed and laid out because we see things in a different and unique way. Secondly, we know that the real estate sector is one of the ways that people amass wealth. They get their hands into wealth. Let's not hide that and put it under a bushel.
True.
Exactly.
Okay? And we know what happens
Correct.
when people have wealth. They then can do a lot of other things. They can think about other stuff. They can go and, build schools. They can go and be philanthropists on issues. They can go and run for offices because they don't have to worry for other things. We know that wealth makes a difference. And so these are just a couple of examples why, if anybody is tuned in or has looked on the program wondering why in the heck do they have this panel, these are the reasons, okay? These are the reasons. And so it matters. It matters, it matters, it matters. And so I just want to point out, Emma talked about life happening. She talked about life happening. And I think everybody brought up that for one reason or another, we fall off the ladder or the conveyor belt or the whatever we want to call it on one's upward mobility. And I mentioned that Wire did a survey on sexual harassment. I mentioned that earlier. Let me just point out what those findings showed us, and again tie it into life matters, women falling off of the conveyor belt, growth. Sorry, my computer is going slowly. But it's something like, almost 90% of women in the built environment have said that they have personally experienced some form of sexual harassment. Okay, almost 60% have said that they have had an advancement that has left them uncomfortable. So why am I bringing in tying it in? One, sexual harassment is unlawful and it is unacceptable. That is one. But when you talk about what happens, you have these incidents in life, and then what women might say is that, you know what, I think I'll just go find somewhere else to work. I think I'll just, you know what, I don't think I need to put up with this. I think I'll just go find somewhere else to work. Or maybe I'm not cut out for this. You know what? They may have a point. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. So, I think when you talk about life matters, and Emma talked about just a moment ago, COVID has brought many women that are professionals like us are now having to take up more home schooling and education and care for our children while we are trying to run and facilitate our careers. So when you talk about life happening, does life happen in a balanced manner? Just want to throw that out there. Does life happen in a balanced manner? What do you ladies think? I've stumped them. And there's no right answer. We're bantering and talking here.
I should go. Definitely, it's not balanced. It's not balanced, like you mentioned, right from, when our homes, our culture, the way women are supposed to, we take on lots of responsibility, and we're supposed to do a lot in the home. So as we get out into the world, we still have lots of things. If you have daughters and sons, you see that the daughters are usually the ones who still have to, support the families, they have to look out for their siblings. And so by the time you even get out into the field to work, you're not just thinking about yourself and your advancement and so forth. You're thinking about you and where you came from, your siblings, your family, and so forth. But and then again, when you get into the workplace, you still don't find it balanced. It's not balanced. And definitely, as you mentioned, the issues of sexual harassment are real. They're serious. I have also been fortunate, like Emma sort of mentioned, that they found, I think you meant that there were few times that it's been hard. But and personally, that has also been my experience. It has just happened to me only once in an unfortunate job situation, one of the places I've worked, and as fate would have it, like life worked it out, and that boss was actually left, the place was even corrupt. So I mean, yeah, so it all worked out for me, but I actually had to play dumb in that scenario because I wanted to get my job done. I liked my job. I had gotten there. I was married. I enjoyed what I was doing. So I just played dumb, like I didn't understand what was going on. But it was really an unfair scenario because it was actually my boss. I'm sure there are so many people that have gone through that and they've just been discouraged. They've had to, like switch maybe partners to just leave their job, which was really a good job that they got married. So, but fortunately, I have not had that in the other scenarios for more than 10 years that I've been working. Because I've not had that happen to me. But of course, there are also other sort of imbalances. Like, say, when I would go to sites, construction sites, most of the workers at the sites are men, and somehow you have to come there with it. You have to psych yourself up, of course, in the earlier years before you're really confident with what you're doing. You have to psych yourself up and say, yeah, I'm going to do the position and I have something to say. And men don't have to do that. They just go and speak, and even if they're not speaking sense, someone will still listen to them. But women, we have to work, like almost twice as hard to be heard, to be, to be listened to, even if you have something to say. So, yes, of course, construction sites and other fora have not been that balanced, but that's notwithstanding, I must say that actually go through all these spaces because I had, and maybe I'll talk about this a little later, but like Kawira mentioned, I have had mentors, with female mentors that I have looked up to, that I have seen have gone through these scenarios. Like when I would go to site with a female architect, I mean, when I would, when I would see her speaking, and she wants through this, and she's telling me, that yeah, that will pass, or you're able to do this and that way. Just following that female mentor who has gone through it and has been successful, just gave me the courage to do what I needed to do. So I think that we definitely we must the issue of mentorship is really, really, really important. And I think even we as women who are listening to have reached somewhere, we have to take it upon ourselves now to actually bring out the other ladies, because the field is not yet level, and we are the ones who understand what we have gone through and we know what the younger is going to go through. So I think that is something that we have to be very conscious about. Take on as many that we can mentor and guide as possible. I think that is a key thing that we have to just help the young ones navigate the space as well. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Christine. Emma, where have you had
It's funny that Christine mentions
things to add? Looks like Emma may have
Okay,
said.
Okay, your
Yes,
voice
we
was
can hear
breaking up,
you.
but I think I
Hello,
got the
can you hear me?
question.
Yes.
So yes, it's life. Well, it's never in balance, really. There are always competing priorities, be it out of the workplace or when you're in the workplace. Um, you know, and of course, as a woman, again, that sociocultural aspect comes into play. The responsibilities that you have, competing priorities on the home front. By the time you actually go to the workplace, especially if for you, you're just starting out and it's still, you're new to that workplace or new to that environment, you find a situation where it's male dominated, for example, using the construction industry, which is where we're zoning in on. And it's intimidating. And if you don't even have anyone to guide you through, to walk you through that process, then number one, there's that. Then there's sexual harassment. So these things start happening. Someone either gropes you or someone starts speaking to you in a manner verbally that makes you uncomfortable. And so you go in there, you're very focused on developing yourself and building your career, but then there are all these barriers at the point of entry and even while you're there to make you feel insecure, you know? So you leave the home, you've left home with your competing priorities, you come to the workplace, and again, it's like your radar is just up. You're not feeling very comfortable in the environment you're in. And based on what Christine is saying, then you start trying to develop mechanisms for survival. Sometimes you pretend that it hasn't happened, but that itself is a challenge because the better way for this to be approached is for there to be mechanisms in those workplaces to address this. Proper policies, reporting mechanisms, an active policy that is able to protect you. Because why should it be that as the man or as the man you're comfortable working in there, but as the woman you feel like you're always on guard, looking around or feeling uncertain about the environment you're in. So there are always all this competing or these dynamics that make the playing field, it's not level. And so you find yourself in a situation where you're really struggling to focus. And like you said, then a woman starts getting frustrated because she's very focused, but here she is thinking something is going to happen any minute now and someone is going to do something to me. So eventually she gets tired and she leaves the job, because what you also end up finding out is often, and I'm not saying that we don't have situations where in the workplaces you have supportive environments with those policies and practices that enable the issue to be addressed. But there are also others that make the lady feel so insecure. And interestingly, the perpetrator is the one who somehow remains behind and you leave. So they carry on with building their career. They're not really affected. And you also have other factors that come into play because, for instance, if I can use our lady artisans, they've just got into the workplace, and you have a male artisan who the company has already invested resources in to train them and retain them. So even if they happen to be the perpetrator and those reporting mechanisms or mechanisms for dealing with the issue are not there, then you as a lady are the one who leaves, and the man still remains. So your career growth is cut short. And because you may not have the mechanisms for even understanding how to deal with it in that intimidating workplace, you also live in a shape or in the form that you can't even move on to the next place and then continue to build yourself up to the next level, because you don't even have those weapons to help you know how to succeed and overcome these barriers.
Okay.
So it's not been a level playing field.
Robin, I want to say something.
Yes, and I want to add something. I want to add something for you. That I know that inside of this, because one of the things we know that oftentimes men and women are men will networks. You talked about men. I'm thinking, women, if we network and if we build each other up, sometimes people will try to say that is, they'll try to say that those women are, I don't know what you call exclusive now, or they are not even qualified. They're just their friends. And so how do we tighten our networks while also we can tighten these issues that have our women step out of the sector, but we can be sponsors for each other, because you're talking about mentorship, and there's an adage that sponsorship may be more needed also, or equally needed. Sponsorship is saying, I'm going to open the door for you, if you will. Mentorship is saying, walk with me, let me show you how to do it. Sponsorship is, I'm going to actually open that door for you, and you already have what it takes. You go and run your course. So Emma, hopefully you can speak on that a little bit, what you're about to say.
Yeah, I was saying, for maybe for men it's a playing field, and for women it's a minefield. Like you're always trying to dodge something. But it's interesting you mentioned about. I see. Sorry, I'm following the chats a little bit, and Lindiwe here is saying something about men and their role actually, and in what you're saying, that you do need male mentors and male sponsors, and you're talking about networking. Yes, we need to be, as women, mentoring and sponsoring each other. And there is value when Christine said about walking into a site and seeing all men, and how overwhelming that by itself was. And I remember that moment. Now I don't even notice. Now I walk into sites and I'm like, hey, do this, yeah, but I remember the moment as a 20-something-year-old architect walking onto a site, and it's natural. Even a man walking into a room full of women would just feel like, what is going on here? Where do I start? And I remember that moment. But back to the point. So there is value in being together with each other as women, but we must realize that we also need the men, because even every one of us in this room will to be where we are in our journeys, either as professionals or leaders. There's been a man who has said, hey, go for it, or hey, you can do it. So we need both men and women sponsorship, and we have to be so conscious of the two, so that and calling out the unconscious bias that men may have, and many are, and I speak even sometimes are unaware of some of these things, and when you raise it, and they're like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way, that yes, if I walked into a room full of women, I'd be so uncomfortable. So why am I having room full of men and expecting women to be comfortable in the same space? So there is a role for the men, and in this whole equation, and we'll I think we'll accomplish so much more if we're moving together. Yeah. And the men are there. It's just calling them out and telling them, hey, you need to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. So I want to just bring, maybe this might be the last round of questions. And so I want to ask you, despite all of this, despite the challenges we've mentioned in our sector and in society, what do you see are some unique challenges for women in our sector? What do you see as some unique challenges, and what are some unique opportunities, and how can we strategically take on those opportunities and engage more in this sector? And feel free to add have this be your parting shot also. Let's see, can I go back around? Who would like to? Okay, Christine, I'm going to call on you first. If you can be brief, yeah, maybe a minute each, minute or so.
Yeah, I'm going to talk. I'm going to say things, but yeah, the first one I'll talk as an employer. Okay, I think employers, we need to start thinking about how to retain our employees better, like different policies that can help retain employees. Yes, maybe some of them could do with helping our employees be able to make, like we were saying, real estate, most of the investors are men. So maybe we need to empower women as well in our workplaces to also become some sort of investors, so that they're not always, okay, first of all, because we know that a lot of the budget that, helping, families and the society forward with. So we need to empower our women. One of the things I think that employers can do is to foster or to create an environment where young women or women in the workplace can actually save money, make money, put their money together, and actually actively help them to do that, so that they are able to invest in certain things. Like, I think it happens in groups and cases, circles, and so forth. But I think employers also need to think of that, because once you put people together in that way and you give them a glimpse into their future, it makes them more stable. It will help the employers, but it will also help the employees themselves to be more stable and to grow, and eventually to be able to do a lot more for themselves, and that will also help them in their careers. Because if they're not stable, they are going to try to find ways to make ends meet in so many other ways. So if the employers can be conscious about their staff, say, okay, we're going to do certain things to help our staff be more stable, and that could just be one of them. But also, I think they need to be, businesses or employers need to be very become more vocal about highlighting the work of the female employees, because many times the male employees get accolades. Imagine there's so many architects I've seen, and it has really broken, disturbed me, where I see both the team maybe was headed by a man or a woman, or the business is headed by a man and a woman, but you only hear the name of the man. And that is so wrong. So I think employers need to be more vocal about highlighting the work of female employees, and speaking out and that will also encourage other women. If we are women employers, then we really need to be the pioneers in that, and this will follow.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Christine. Can I ask for your comments and parting shot?
Sorry, what did you call out on? I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I was asking you in terms of what are the opportunities that you see for women in this sector. Despite all the challenges, there's always still something that's left unmined that we can get involved in. And where do you see as something that we can make this sector more equal for all, if you will? So just a couple of those things.
Okay, thank you. I think you touched on a few of that, of being intentional about, also because we also get caught in the same rut sometimes. We don't have too many women in our radar, because by sheer numbers, you'll only have 7% of women engineers to choose from. So being intentional about sponsoring and giving opportunities to other women, as women, first of all, before we even expect it of society and of men, we must be the first. We must, walk the talk. Yes, walk the talk. We must walk the talk. So that's one. I think, and just where women in real estate Kenya, what has happened by us coming together and in sort of a small space, celebrating what Christine was saying, celebrating legends who have been there, women who've been doing this, and nobody has been talking about them, just because the people who control the mouthpiece will not notice them, and just celebrating those women, celebrating the ones who are upcoming. That in terms of value for women, seeing other women in these spaces is phenomenal. So to keep on, to encourage all the women across Africa, who are listening in, to do the same, and let's connect and have a regional or even an African women in real estate conversation. So we're actually converting our networks into food on the table, money in the bank, in a sense. Let's convert that, and each one of us, let's look for opportunities for each other. Robin has given me work. I hope I have given her some work as well. But just that sponsoring each other, that's a question. That's what we need to be intentional about, even in our own offices and in our own spaces. So that's an opportunity in that regard. And women are capable. I saw someone, I think she's Joy Zenz, talking about how Corona has shown the agility of women in leadership, and how in a crisis we are really who the world is looking up to, in a sense. So how do we grab this moment and show people that actually, look, women are capable of leadership, and you just have never noticed it because your lens was skewed. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Emma. Thank you very much. Kawita.
Yes. I would say in terms of the sector, one challenge and one critical area that needs to be addressed is safe workspaces. That's not to say that all spaces are not safe, but that's a huge issue. The ability to provide safe working spaces to accommodate all, because there's space for everyone, men and women. But in order to ensure that we can accommodate more, then it means creating those safe spaces. And in regard to that, safety and safeguarding, one important thing to do is to be able to work with a lot of the players who are already on board with creating gender equity, for example, having them work with us so we can all collaborate to be able to work as champions towards creating better spaces for everyone to thrive. And of course, for those players who don't necessarily have setups that offer dignified spaces to work, who don't necessarily have the policies, then capacity building comes into play. We can step in and say, what is it that you need for us to help you then become a better fit to accommodate the other parties who need those chances to contribute within the sector, within the industry? And so it's either working with those who are already on board with gender equity to strengthen the systems they already have in place to create to build upon those safe spaces, and for those who don't already have that, having conversations with them to just create that awareness, because some of them don't even know how to create a better working environment that can accommodate women as well as the men, you know. So things as simple as creating sanitation facilities that also consider women, just as an example. That in and of itself is simple, and yet it's very powerful, you know. Being able, when we talk about sexual harassment, to create that awareness, or even helping the workforce in an environment fully that fully has a male audience, to be able to help workers who don't understand how to behave around women to start understanding the proper behavior around women, because some things are just the norm in terms of their behavior when they themselves are hanging around themselves. So just help them
Locker
to
room.
know. Yes, exactly.
The famous
Exactly.
locker.
So knowing, yes. So even if you talk about no women in that workplace and just observing how the men would sometimes behave in that locker room type of scenario, just advocating for a change in behavior to accommodate everyone. And then when we talk about, so that issue or that situation of talking about championing change together is very important. And then when we talk about opportunities, like I said, there's space for all. So even as we have this conversation, we are not saying that we've pushed men out, just to go back to the conversation about sponsorship, but there's room for every single person to be involved towards progress, men
Okay.
and women. And
Looks like we
so,
have a man champion who's come in the room. I think he's
yay,
going to tell us he wants us to wrap up.
awesome.
Yeah.
So I'll wind up anyway. My parting shot would be dignity. Dignity, dignity, dignity is critical. Dignified spaces, dignified pay, trying to create a level playing field, and
Yeah.
starting to talk about value over priority when it comes to gender equity, so that we see gender equity as more than a priority and seeing it as value, because value remains unchanged. Priorities change over time. Thank you.
Okay. Wonderful. Great. Thank you so much. Kipper, thank you. It's great to see you. Thanks for
Yeah,
hopping
now
in.
we're not a WAML.
Yeah,
Now we've got a man, we're not a WAML.
yeah, but it was not a whammo, but it also almost started to look like a mansplaining with him coming in to see what we're talking about. Okay, so I just want to thank EAPI again. I want to thank each and every one of you. It's an honor to call all of you sisters in wire, sisters in the sector, and let us. One of the things, let us be intentional about this. You know, we know that EAPI attracts captains of this industry. And if it's not on your board's agenda, okay, if it's not on your board's agenda to have parity in there, to have the things that Kawita, Christine, and Emma talked about, consider it won't get done. It won't. It has to be on your board strategy. And so everybody, please go back and ask, what is our strategy for gender parity at this company? What are we doing about this? And we'll see you back in 2021 to hear the changes that you put in. We hope to see you
in person, I hope, at the
Yes.
Radisson Blue.
Okay. We thank all of you for being here. Thank you for taking your time out to be at the EAPI Wire panel. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Robin, for wonderful moderation.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, API.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you for participating and giving us your time. And thank you, Wire, for partnering with us and putting together the session. And yes, I think that concludes most of our proceedings for the last 2 days. So thank you, ladies, and we'll be we hopefully will see you in Nairobi next year in person. Please God.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of the EAPI Virtual Summit. Thank you all for attending. We'll be obviously sharing all the details, the poll results, the presentations, the videos of all of the full 2-day sessions in the next coming day and week. So thank you all for your participation. It's been a great 2 days, very insightful, lots of key takeaways, and most importantly, just keeping people connected and the conversation going. So thank you so much for your participation. We hope to see you again in Nairobi, but we'll also be hosting a live virtual event for the API Summit in September, end of September, beginning of October. So please look out for the communication on that. And have a great day and a good weekend. Thank you.